I'm not asking you if you believe in independence right now or should we leave. What I'm asking you is whose decision is it? Is it we the people or is it the legislature?
You've asked me a question I've not been asked. You've asked me a question I've not researched. And so I will follow back. And
you have to research it?
Yeah,
I just read the Texas Constitution.
Ma'am, I understand. But there will be a legal opinion on that. And I don't know what that legal opinion is. And I would want to go to the Attorney General and find out what that really says and really means and what the intent is. Reading me something for the first time that I have not looked at, and you're asking me a question, and I'm happy to give you an answer and follow up and give you the answer.
According to the U.S. Department of the Treasury, the national debt broke records Friday when the total climbed over $19 trillion.
That's a $56,000 burden for each of us.
President Obama is set to unveil a $4 trillion budget for 2016.
Wisconsin U.S. Senator Ron Johnson says that we could add $126 trillion in new debt over the next 30 years.
You're looking at an unemployment rate around 23%.
I have to feed my family, and I think a lot of people around the United States feel the same way.
And right now, I live in a country where the government does whatever it wants to do.
You don't hear too many elected officials talking about it because if they actually describe that harsh reality, we'll have to do something about it, and that's not real popular.
The Texas Nationalist Movement is in the middle of a cross-state campaign tonight to push for independence, and
they believe Texas could make it on its own.
Texans are tired of answering to bureaucrats in D.C. that they didn't elect.
They want to take Texas back.
We'd be the 46th largest country in the world, the 17th leading oil producer, the 15th largest economy. We've got our own Air Force. They build F-16s in Fort Worth. Wonder what Sam Houston would think.
Independence. I like that.
These folks think Texas' sunniest days are ahead.
Governor Abbott, with my support and every other Republican support in the state, said we're there to help you. Texas did not take a back step.
Texas backed down earlier tonight and reopened the crossings.
Power, whether red or blue, I could not care less about Texas, me and you. They created this give me country that don't value hard work. For a Texan to survive, all we need are some seeds and dirt. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country before it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you country, for it's long gone. We believe in family and we value our community. Gladly lend a helping hand to a neighbor in need. And we don't believe that government should provide for all of society's needs. No, it's the pride of a Texan to give to others voluntarily. Texan, rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's long gone. Texan, rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's long gone. Our tax dollars and they love our natural resources. They don't want to see us driving trucks, they'd rather see us riding horses. And now they want to ban our guns, you know, especially the ones that look scary. But may I remind you of the Gonzales Cannon and the Alamo heroes we buried. Texan, rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country, for it's long gone. Texan, rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country, for it's long gone. This last verse is straight from the Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 1 and 2. Look it up. Texas is an independent state, yet presently we suffer. We no longer possess the right to locally self-govern. And now it's time as a people in which all political power is inherent. And in such manner we find expedient, we reform or abolish our government. I said, Texan, rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. Texan, rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone.
All right. Good evening, everyone. It is time for my weekly decompress. And, here we are. Late night coffee talk. Got my coffee and my wonderful Texas Now mug. And ready to discuss the issues of the day. Talk about what's happened over the last week and what's going to be coming up and the things that are on my mind. And you guys are already pumping the questions on the chat, and I appreciate that. So let's get down to it before we take any questions, before I talk about what's going on in my mind or what's happened. A little bit of housekeeping. Man, I almost feel like I should get written instructions for this, and just put them on the screen, right? So If you are watching on YouTube, specifically the TNM YouTube channel, be sure to like this video and, share it, do those things. But importantly, follow us, right? Subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit that notification bell so you get notifications whenever we go live. And, there's a whole lot more, oddly enough, even in the midst of everything we're doing, there's a whole lot more getting ready to happen on the YouTube channel. So, you're going to want to hit that notification bell. And, of course, if you're watching on Facebook, on any of the Facebook pages, be sure to like, share, and comment. And of course, all those comments, just like the chat on YouTube, all aggregate in a very tiny little window. Actually, the way I'm looking at it, it's sort of over here, very tiny now. Because if you will recall, as I said last time, I have my lovely wife, Kara Miller, who is moderating the chat tonight, which, honestly, last week was the first time we had somebody other than me moderating chat, and it went really well. We were able to get a lot more in, address a lot more, a lot less dead time, me scrolling down looking for comments. And of course, if you're on Twitter, if you're watching this on either the TNM's Twitter account or my Twitter account, be sure to do all those Twitter things. Give us a good old heart over there. And of course, retweet it, send it out. Let's pile a bunch of people on tonight. Share, share, share. Let's fill this thing up. Man, I'm already getting questions in. This is great. Okay, and don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, Super Chat is active. So if you're chatting over there and you feel like dropping us a donation to help us keep doing what we're doing, including the billboard campaign. I mean, that billboard campaign has been phenomenal. I probably need to upload a picture in here for you guys to see it. But either way, if you want to go take a look at it or make a direct donation to the billboard campaign, go to tnm.me/billboards. Otherwise, just super chat. We'll pop you up on the screen. It'll be awesome. Okay. So, yeah, it's been, can you guys tell? I'm a little, maybe kind of, no, it's not out of sorts. I don't think out of sorts is the word. I mean, there's just a lot going on. I mean, a lot. There's tons of things happening. Let me just kind of review for you guys. I don't know how much you've seen, but it's been pretty crazy. I was down in Port Aransas for the South Texas Alliance of Republicans barbecue fundraiser, and it was interesting. It was a fantastic event. Really enjoyed it. Right down there in Port Aransas, right down there by the water, boats everywhere. Including a replica pirate ship. Like, I could have worn my paper pirate hat from Long John Silver's. I still would have looked ridiculous, but it would have been a little more in keeping with the theme. But got some stage time up there, spoke after the local sheriff, and it was a good time. It's always fun when other speakers that are supposed to be there are there late. And they come to you and go, hey, you remember we gave you this much? Well, if you could just fill some additional time, that would be great. Yeah. So that happened. Normally people try to pull me off the stage with a shepherd's hook, not to mention, I'm not, I guess maybe I shouldn't mention that event in Laredo where they tried to pull me off stage early because I wasn't singing out of the, Battle Hymn of the Republic songbook that the organizers were, but so what? Anyway, phenomenal time. Very appreciative that they invited me down to speak, and then of course got to fastball it back home. Enough time to throw on throw the clothes in the washing machine and lay my head on the pillow to wake up the next day and head to Palestine to speak to the Anderson County Republican Club down there at Palestine. Again, Palestine, kind of my neck of the woods, back home, back behind the pine curtain. So really enjoyed visiting with those folks. Candidate for county judge was there. Current county commissioner was there. A lot of other fine people. Lots of petition signatures collected, and some people I think fired up. I talked about some things there that we probably should have been rolling tape. It was definitely a little bit something different. So it's been all in all a great week, and many of you know I was scheduled to be on Chris Salcedo's show on Newsmax TV today. They called a couple hours ahead of time, asked if they could move to Friday. They had some kind of breaking news thing. So for those of you expecting to see me on Newsmax today at 4:30 or whatever it was, my apologies, not our doing, but it has been moved to Friday, same time. So we'll have a good time over there talking to Chris about Texas independence and what's going on in Texas and the border and, our kind of weak-willed politicians in Austin. Ooh. And then, of course, I don't know if you guys noticed over the last weekend, and even now, the number of petition signing events is just enormous. There are events happening everywhere. So the wonderful opportunities abound for people to get out there and sign the petition. And of course, we are always looking for brand new petition circulators. We need more. We need more people collecting signatures. We need more people who have volunteered to collect signatures to actually get out there and collect signatures. And we need people that have collected signatures to send them in. This is not going to be easy. We're going to wind up sliding into this thing by the skin of our teeth. I want to blow it out of the water. If you're like me and you want to see that number demolished, then get in the fight. Let's get those petition signatures collected. Let's get them turned in. I don't want to slide into this thing under the wire. I want to blow it out of the box. We need to blow it out of the box. We want to blow it out of the box. But we got to get it done, and don't rely on other people to get it done. You become a part of the solution, because otherwise you're just a part of the problem. All right, hang on. I got to pause my notifications over here because the questions are coming in fast and furious. Okay. So that being said, there are tons of questions going on right now that are coming in via chat. And rather than unpack a lot of the news of the day, which I could do, I could talk about that bleary-eyed redistricting hearing that ended at like 3:00 this morning, or not hearing, but the floor debate, which, by the way, I was able to watch all throughout the house on the TNM Roku app. Watching, if you go to Roku in your channels and search for Texas Nationalist Movement, you will find the app. And when you download the app, there is a section called Texas Legislature Live. And I was able to put it on the House floor. It was like on every TV or computer screen in the house, because I didn't want to miss it anywhere that I went. And it was something else. I will tell you, the thing that made me probably the most furious was the concessions that they cut to the quorum busting Dems, including entertaining drawing Aaron Zwiener, who has cussed at our supporters, her constituents that called to talk to her about the House Bill 1359. After all the crap that they pulled, they said that that we were all racist and all this other garbage. They cut her a concession and drew her back into her district. But they took a guy like Jeff Kaysen, who, it's his first term. He was elected in a district up there in Tarrant County. Solid, phenomenal guy. His constituents love him. They obliterated his district. Obliterated it. Like, completely redrew it, drew him in it. It's now a blue district where you got Matt Krause, who has been pretty pathetic on our issues. I've got a video on him that I could dig up and play for you guys. And who's not even running again, right? He's decided he's going to go primary and lose against Ken Paxton. But you got somebody like Matt Krause. They took his district and basically made it an open Republican district right next door to where Kaysen was, where Kaysen went up, proffered an amendment that would have basically just taken and reversed that scenario and given Kaysen the bulk of his district back, and they shot it down. So Aaron Zwiener gets a pass, and Jeff Kaysen gets crapped on. And that's the kind of people that you're dealing with in the Texas legislature, specifically in the House of Representatives, which is exactly why we are running this campaign right here, the Take Texas Back campaign, right? To recruit candidates to challenge every one of these people, right? Remember the people that said you were too stupid to make your own decision on Texit, right? That thought they could hedge or they could insult you or do whatever. Those people, we're recruiting candidates to run against those people, and you could be one of those candidates. One of those people could be you. It should be you, because the petition campaign is great. We cross the finish line, wonderful. We get the Texit vote on it, and we know that Texit goes on the ballot. We win in a landslide, right? Binding, non-binding doesn't matter. We put it on the ballot. We win by a landslide. But what are you going to do when we win by a landslide and you got this pack of do-nothings in the legislature on the other side of it who are not going to potentially listen to you, right? Now, we're challenging many of these races, but we always are looking for more candidates. So if you live in one of these districts and you feel like you are not represented, then perhaps today is your day to jam your hand in the air like I'm about to and say, I'm going to run for office. Could be. It could be you. Okay. Well, look, that brings me to one more thing I want to talk about before I start taking these questions. I'm taking questions early tonight because I want to get through as many of them as I can. That coffee's good. It's good. The good coffee's not what I want to talk about. All right. So, as many of you are aware, we have created an event, and October 23rd is supposed to be the date that I'm going to announce what I am going to be campaigning for, the office that I'm going to be running for. And our intention fully was to have it on October the 23rd as an in-person event in Conroe. However, since we have announced it, we are finding, number one, venues are problematic, especially this late in the game. But more importantly, what we're finding is that an in-person announcement has the potential to interfere with our field work to get the signatures for the petition campaign. So consequently, and here's the crazy thing: we're already, I think we're almost at 200 RSVPs combined to the event. So, so here's what's going to go down. Which, by the way, that means that I would actually have had more than George P. Bush at my announcement. So, take that, P. Anyway. So here's what's happening. We are in the next couple of days talking about the potential of pivoting the announcement. So number one, taking it away from an in-person announcement and doing a virtual announcement, right? Because we've got a lot of people who wanted to be there, who wanted to witness it, who wanted to participate, but they're out there. They're busting their tails all across the state, working to help make Texas free and independent. And I'm going to tell you, that's the people that I want to participate in this. So we're discussing the next couple of days, pivoting to virtual, and especially if we were to get, somewhere, anywhere probably north of 250 or 300 RSVPs, that's probably what we would wind up having to do anyway, simply because of, having to secure the venue. But I will say this: if we do make the pivot to virtual, we will do it earlier than the 23rd. So the date will shift to sometime next week. So we'll know. We'll have news. So if you are not already subscribed to the email list or the text message list, go right there. Text stand to 33339. That's STAND to 33339. Or you can head over to my website at danielomiller.com. Register your email address, and we'll be sure to get the notification out and keep you posted. Look, it's fluid, right? One thing that I have learned from many years of doing this is a certain, sometimes you just got to pivot. Sometimes you just got to kind of shift direction. You don't win games by grabbing the ball and just run a straight line all the time. So sometimes you got to move around a bit. And if that's what it takes to win, being agile, being mobile, then that's what we're going to do. And that applies to this announcement as well. But it's happening. It's happening, folks. Trust and believe. The sleeplessness you are seeing in these eyes right now is all about the juggle, is all about preparing and working hard and getting ready for this thing. So I'm going to encourage you to go sign up at the website, join the text message list, and I'll definitely keep you posted on what's going to happen because, look, it's not just about me. We have got candidates that are going to be running all over the state, and we are going to be together, locking arms, marching forward on this thing. We are running together. And we're going to need all the help we can get. If you're not a candidate, then you definitely need to be a volunteer because we are fighting this thing to win. We're not running to make statements. We're running to make a difference. So, that being said, let's get down to the brass tacks. Right? Tell you what, I am almost out of coffee already. Does that tell you anything? I don't know. So let's get to the questions. Oh, look, coffee. Thank you. All right. So let's get down to questions. You guys ready? I hope so. Questions are awesome. Okay, let's take the first one. Right out of the gate, Matt and Sadie Bug. That sounds like a screen name. Or it could be a legit name. I mean, I know there's a musician named Jake Bug. And Donna, thank you for your super chat, by the way. Appreciate that. Okay, so the first question right out of the gate is one that I love. And the question is, why do we call ourselves Texians and not Texans? Well, we actually call ourselves both, right? The use of the word Texian for us is kind of an internal term that harkens back to the days of the Republic, right? 1836. And it was used in those early days to foster a sense of Texas nationalism, right? To make it very distinct from Americans or Mexicans. You had Texians, and that was it. And it was the sort of the primary usage for what people were called during the Republic period, and over time became supplanted by the term Texan. Now, it doesn't, there's no official status or anything else that is denoted by that. But what we did in 2005 when we founded the TNM was we began to use it as part of our organizational culture, right? And so we use Texian internally to kind of denote officially, unofficially, whatever, those people that have effectively crossed that proverbial line in the sand, that have gone from being, Texans as part of the United States to believing in Texas becoming an independent nation. And as a matter of fact, if you've ever seen me speak in public, you'll notice that there's a pin that I wear on my jacket lapel that is, it's like the TNM logo, but instead of the TNM letters, it has the letter I. And we used to, many years ago, when people joined the TNM, they executed a membership of any type. we had what was called a new member orientation that they went through. And the new member orientation dealt with, making sure members understood our mission and our principles, the things the activities that we do, some of the underlying philosophical basis, some of the things like that. So it was our new member orientation. And when people completed the new member orientation, they received their IPIN. Like, we would present them at meetings and pin them at meetings. And the I was denoted. Some people said, oh, that stands for independence. No, it was the I in Texian, right? Because the only difference between Texan and Texian is the letter I. And so we talk about earning the IPN. So let me tell you, if you see anyone in the organization that has one of those IPNs, those are old schoolers. Those are old timers. They have been in the fight for a very long time. And I got to tell you, maybe the IPN and the new member orientation is something that we need to consider doing again, because I'm finding so many people out there that are in the organization, have been in the organization 2, 3, 4 years, are completely unfamiliar with some of the core philosophical principles and the ideology of the organization. So perhaps that's something we need to consider doing. So, sound off in the chat wherever you are if you'd be interested in seeing that make a comeback. But anyway, that's the answer to your question. Okay, Yona says, what does it, Yona, I use you as an example. Your testimony on House Bill 1359, I use it in speeches all the time, which, by the way, I would suggest if any of you have not watched the House Bill 1359 virtual testimony, go to tnm.me/HB1359. That thing's live streaming 24/7 still. So, but anyway, if you catch Yona's testimony, you'll understand why I loved it so much. But here's the question. What does it say about the popularity of Texit that all of Abbott's primary challengers say they will largely ignore / disregard the federal mandates? Look, I mean, I think it only helps, right? With the exception maybe of Chad Prather. Huffines and West have stated, well, Prather has stated he's on Team Texit now, right? He's been public about that. Huffines and West are still in the mindset of I'll support a vote on it, but I'm gonna make Texas so sovereign that we'll forget about Texas, which we know is bullcrap, because that's just not the way that it's going to work. And look, that's fine. We'll get there, because at least they're saying that they support a vote and they will carry out the wishes of the people of Texas, which is more than we've gotten out of Greg Abbott. So, on the Texas question, sort of where we are, I think the discussion about ignoring or disregarding federal mandates is really part and parcel of this much larger discussion about where people in Texas are in their disgust with being ruled by the federal system. The federal government is out of control. It's been out of control for a very long time. But there is. Let me just say this: there is campaigning and there is governing, and rarely do the two meet where these candidates are concerned. And I'm not talking about them specifically. I'm just talking in general. You can take some of these guys in the legislature right now as a perfect example. They talk a good game and they govern weakly, right? So I talked about it in my book right here. Abbott's strategy to fight back against the Obama administration was tweet, sue, lose, repeat. Right? They do an awful lot of chest thumping. They talk about what they're going to do, but when the rubber meets the road, they don't do it. Dan Patrick's weakness on the TSA bill back when he was a state senator is a perfect example. They talk a good game, but they back down. So when it comes to this sort of thing, I got a real kind of wait and see attitude. I don't believe it until I see it. And, frankly, even the stronger rhetoric and the rapid reaction is better than what we got right now from Abbott. Okay, Lisa asks, how do you think Texas should get our reimbursement for all of our state money used at the border when it was the responsibility of the federal government to take care of? Lisa, I'm afraid to tell you, we are not going to get any of that money back. That's what the federal government does. They take our money. They don't provide what they're supposed to. They force things on us that we don't want. And then they force Texas to pay for the things that it really needs that the federal government should be doing in the first place, or have forced us to do that they shouldn't be doing. That's just the nature of the relationship. There was a piece of legislation that was floated around several state legislatures many years ago it was called the Federal Tax Escrow Act. And it was dynamite. And essentially what it would have done is establish in the state that all remittance of federal taxes would have gone into the state coffers first. And then the state would have paid it out along with the receipts. So no charge, no nothing. But the first stop would have been into the state coffers. And the theory behind that, and what was circulating in all these states, the theory was that if all the federal tax money was being remitted to the state instead of the federal government, and of course, the state would pass it through, but if at any time the federal government got out of whack, they just turn the tap off and not pass it through to the federal government. And I want to tell you, it would have been dynamite. I mean, you sign about 10 states up, the 10 givers, you could bring the federal treasury to its knees. You bring the federal government to its knees. And so it was just a phenomenal thing. But really and truly, that's the way that it should be. There should be no direct taxation from the federal system on individuals, period. And of course, we want to completely eliminate that by taking the federal government out of the equation entirely and making Texas a self-governing independent nation. So, yeah, I mean, don't hold your breath on a reimbursement. Remember, those are the guys with the big debt clock, right? They're not real good at paying things back. Okay. Another question. Does Texas have to make any concessions to the feds after independence? Does the federal government have to take care of its debt, not Texas? Can we sever ties and be done with the debt? Great question. Something that I actually cover in the book. We have seen examples of this around the world over the last 75 years, where countries have separated from larger bodies and thought, you know what, I'll tell them just, take the debt and stick it, right? And what's inevitably happened is there has been a negative economic impact on those countries. So, when we talk about concessions to the feds after independence, that's all really part of the negotiated issues, right? There is a basket of issues. And I actually explained this in Palestine the other night from the stage. I think it may be the first time that I've talked about it in depth on a stage somewhere. But there are really 4 key things, right? So we have the Texit vote. Post-Texit vote, everything stays the same until it changes, right? The vote is an expression of political will, and then things have to happen after that to carry out that expression of political will. And so there's really kind of 4 pillar issues. There's constitutional, there's statutory or legislative, right? There's international treaties, covenants, and conventions. And then the 4th thing are the negotiated issues. The constitutional issues, in a nutshell, are basically things that we have to do to amend our Constitution to make it proper for a self-governing independent nation. Prevents us from having to go to a constitutional convention, okay? There's precedent for kind of wholesale changes like that to the Texas Constitution and the Deadwood Amendments back in the 60s, okay? So statutory is where the legislature has to go in, fill in any statutory gaps that are left by basically throughout the years, deferring on certain legal issues to the federal system or federal law. And additionally, any sort of expansion, reorganization of state agencies to handle an additional capacity as full-blown national agencies. And some other things that we'll want to do, some securing of protections that are not currently explicitly spelled out in Texas law. We'll want to take care of those. International covenants and conventions. These are multilateral agreements that nations sign on to that cover things as broad as air traffic control, fishing waters. I mean, there are probably trade agreements that we'll want to start hashing out almost immediately. There's a whole ton of those, and I could spend an hour, maybe even two, talking just about that aspect of it. Then the final thing is the negotiated issues. All right, so we get to it. So basically, we can run all of these things somewhat concurrently to compress time frames. But that final issue, the negotiated issue, is gonna be tough, right? Because we've got to sit across the table from the federal government, having done so much of these other steps to become self-governing and independent. And we're going to have some tough conversations about the money in the Social Security Trust Fund, the Medicare money, the federal debt, and what is going to how our share is going to be calculated, and whether or not we're going to get credit for our $103 to $160 billion annual overpayment. And if we do have to pay a portion of that federal debt, what federal assets are we going to get in return? What are we going to do? What is the disposition of federal enclaves or reservations here in Texas, like the military bases? These are all negotiated issues. And as part of that, there will be like a lot of some bilateral agreements, perhaps mutual defense pact. There's all kinds of things that go along with that. So, will Texas have to make any concessions? Well, anytime you sit down at a negotiating table, it's always a game of give and take. But ultimately, the net benefit, the outcome, will be beneficial to Texas because we're in the catbird seat. We are in the strongest negotiating position that we could possibly be in. We might have to make some here and there, but we have to set an initial expectation ahead of negotiation. Okay. And to your second point, which is, can we sever ties, be done with the debts? Not what you want to do. Negative economic impact every time a country gaining independence has tried that. So it's just a matter of how we calculate it. Okay, here's a comment, question from YouTube. Has the TNM decided who we will endorse for governor? We have not. We're not there yet. However, this is a good time to plug the governor's virtual town hall that we will be hosting on November the 7th, which is a Sunday evening right here across all of our, just where you're watching this now. This is where it's going to be. Chad Prather, Don Huffines, Alan West, all right here in your screen and taking questions. So it will be moderated. So November the 7th, mark it on your calendar that evening. You are not going to want to miss this. I think we've already had, it's almost pretty close to 600 RSVPs for people that want to go. I fully imagine we will have 1,000 plus viewers on the stream that night. So make sure you go over there and RSVP so you can get any kind of notifications. We're going to do some question submission ahead of time. So you're going to want to go RSVP so we can send you an email and let you know to get your questions in. We obviously will not have time during that virtual town hall to field them all, but we will try to get as many of those questions in there as possible. And I'm going to be moderating. So that's going to be fun, right? Okay. Let's look here. Gloria wants to know, did Texas enter the union lawfully? Man, that's a great question. Seeing as how I think yesterday, here recently, was the anniversary of the vote, the popular vote that brought Texas into the union. So I think this is a really interesting conversation to have. So let's kind of get down to some brass tacks about this, because it is. Let me preface it first by saying that I do not feel that the discussion is about this is particularly applicable to our situation right now. Right. I don't believe that it has any bearing or impact on us, because this determination, the question is who determines, right? Who is going to determine whether it was lawfully done? Who has standing to approach it? And ultimately, the people of Texas are going to have to be consulted on the issue anyway, because it was the people of Texas that were consulted previously on the issue. So here is my take from all of the research that I have done on the issue. You have two entities pre-annexation. You have the United States of America and you have the Republic of Texas. Both foreign governments, both have laws that say that treaties must be executed by the Senate, right? Because treaties are how self-governing independent nations typically officially do business. So, timeline, you had the Republic of Texas Senate ratify a treaty and send it to the United States Senate proposing the annexation. The United States Senate voted down the treaty. Okay, so when you hear people say, well, Texas was annexed by treaty, understand that they don't know what they're talking about. They've just been misinformed, or they're hearing what other people said. There was a treaty submitted by constitutionally submitted by the Republic of Texas Senate. The United States Senate voted down the treaty. So treaties require two parties. United States Senate doesn't ratify, boom, no treaty exists, right? There was a proposed treaty, and that proposed treaty was ratified by the Republic of Texas Senate, but not ratified by the other party, so a treaty did not exist. So what happened was, because the United States government could not get the requisite number of votes to ratify the Senate treaty, what they did was they did a little bit of a flea flicker play. They proposed the annexation of Texas by joint resolution of Congress, aka a majority of both houses of the United States Congress was all it took for the joint resolution. So the question becomes, and let's not forget, because I just mentioned it a moment ago, the people of Texas went to the polls and had an opportunity to vote on this issue. So not only was there was this treaty issue, but the agreement as presented was put to a vote of the people of Texas. The people of Texas voted to join the Union. Okay. Retrospect, maybe not the best decision, just saying. But so we know under the principles ensconced in Article 1, Section 2 of the Texas Constitution, right, that the people have at all times the inalienable right to alter, reform, or abolish their government in such manner as they may think expedient. We know that the moment that it went to a vote of the people of Texas, it became lawful on our end. The question becomes, and I think the question that is extremely important, and honestly, we're not the only people to have asked this through history, is whether or not the federal government could admit a state into the Union by joint resolution of Congress, right? Does it have the same effect? Because you have sovereign, self-governing independent nation and sovereign, self-governing independent nation, and constitutionally, the only way they should have been able to do business is by treaty, but they circumvented that. So the reason that I say at the beginning is, that I don't know that it has any direct impact on us. I mean, it's an academic point. It's a curiosity of history. And I think it's a valid question that we should ask as we point back in history at the lawless streak that has existed in the federal system. But I say that because, to answer your question, did Texas enter the Union lawfully? Well, from the Texas perspective, we did everything we were supposed to do. Treaty, and then ultimately, aside from the treaty and overriding everything, was the vote of the people. Did the United States do what it was supposed to do? Was it lawful? Well, that is a question. But then the thing that makes it problematic is that for that to be challenged, Texas can't challenge it because Texas did what it was supposed to do. It engaged in the agreement. It put it to a vote of the people. So we did what we were supposed to do. Then they, on their end, from the annexation standpoint, perhaps did not. So it would have to be one of the other states that stepped up and did it. Now, interestingly enough, this question has been asked, and there has been some discussion about it, at least from the attorney general level on the federal side. I don't know that there's any case law specifically about it, but it has been a question. And I will tell you that most recently, and I can't cite it right now, but I read specifically a paper about this. The question came up in regard to making DC a state and making Puerto Rico a state. And the question was asked, and if I remember correctly, it was actually submitted. It was Ronald Reagan who submitted it to his attorney general at the time, and I cannot remember who it is, asking if it was lawful to annex a state by joint resolution of Congress. And so from what I remember, because it's been many years since I've read this particular thing, that particular one, but the opinion was, yeah, probably not, but it might be, but it's probably best that we don't open that can of worms because Texas, if I remember correctly, wasn't the only one affected by it. So it's a really interesting question. But at the end of the day, we know that all political power is inherent in the people, not the politicians, the pundits, the paperwork, right? This is not going to be, our independence is not going to be won by adjudicating it through a court. It's just not the way that it is. That argument is not going to get us our independence. Ultimately, what will get us our independence is a full, free expression of the political will of the people of Texas. But interesting question. Thank you for asking it because it's been a while since I've talked about that. Okay, Christopher wanted to know this. Oh, and by the way, I mean, we're zooming through here. If you have any questions, regardless of where you're watching, be sure to put them in the chat. I've got a couple of more right now, and looking forward to answering these two. And if I have time, I'll get some more in. And don't forget, if you're watching us on the TNM's YouTube channel, Super Chat is active. Sure would. If you feel compelled to make a contribution to our efforts, it is greatly appreciated. Okay, so Christopher's question is this. He says, is the GOP redistricting assault on Kasich based solely on his support of House Bill 1359? I don't know the answer to that, but I have to tell you that it looks very suspicious. They attempted to draw Biederman out of his district. They drew Kasich into a solidly Democrat district. They gutted James White's district, although he's running for ag commissioner. And same thing with Phil Stevenson. I mean, there were only a handful of pairings. I listened last night when Representative Todd Hunter got up over and over again. It was the chair of the redistricting committee, talked about, we tried to minimize pairings. That was our big deal, is minimizing pairings. It's like, okay, well, why is it that like 3 of the 6 pairings were people who signed on to 1359 or, whatever those pairings wound up to be, but it looks very targeted. I mean, and I think there is a sufficient case to be made that our guys were targeted. And you know what? Tough. They're going to pull stuff like this. It's all the more reason why we have to recruit candidates and get the petition thing across the finish line, because we got to beat these guys. I mean, we got to beat them. They're going to attack us. They're going to attack 3 or 4 of our guys. Let's just go after all of them, right? Let's make them spend money. Let's make them have sleepless nights. You know, I am not down for a candy butt defeatist attitude, right? I don't like it when I hear that Texans curl up and suck their thumb and get all upset. Oh my God, they're gonna go. We got to go win. This is why we have to win. The price of not winning is more of this, right? It is clear as a bell. That's why we got to do what we got to do. Petition. Run for office. Petition. Run for office. Here, I'll do it. Petition. Run for office. Petition. Run for office. That's how we win. That's how we win. That's how we beat these guys back. You know, we got to stop playing defense, people. We got to start playing offense. And we got to take the battle to them. Yeah, they targeted Kaysen. Maybe not solely based on 1359, but I'm going to tell you, it probably factored into it pretty doggone heavy. I cannot imagine that 1359 did not come up in the conversation when they were thinking, hey, we're going to screw Jeff Kaysen. I'm pretty sure it came up. I'm almost 100% positive it came up in their conversation about Biederman, but Biederman outplayed them. That's fun. I love it when that happens. But we got to stop playing defense. We got to go after them. You don't win on defense. Yeah, you got to have a strong defense, but you don't win on defense. You only win on offense. We don't give up ground. We take ground. That's how we roll. Okay. Donna's got a question. Hey, and super chat, by the way, thank you, Viva, and thank you, Donna, for your super chats. We do appreciate that. All right. So here's Donna's question. Will there be a possibility for individuals in an independent Texas to opt out of Social Security Medicare for some kind of credit towards private options? Yeah. You know, this is part of the beautiful thing about Texas independence. Is we are no longer locked into failed or failing federal solutions. We're just not. We have the opportunity to create systems that work for us. And I will tell you that Texans are probably going to want to have a heavy private option for any type of program like this, right? So you have to balance that against the necessity for a Social Security totalization agreement so that people don't lose credit for payments or hours in that other system, and people that want to participate in a system like that, that's fine. We've got blueprints for that, right? The Galveston plan being chief among them. But an opt-out provision where anyone can opt out and go, look, I'm private. I'm going to donate. Now I'm going to invest on my own. I'm going to sock away my own money in my own way. There's not a thing wrong with that. And I'm pretty sure that that's what Texans are going to want on the other side of this. So that being said, yay. I think, and I talk about Social Security totalization agreements in the book. I've actually had this question quite a bit here lately. There's been not the normal Social Security question, like, am I going to get it? Right? We've answered that a lot. But really sort of some deep dive on how this works. And I dig that. All right. Hey, and Tex, thank you for your super chat. Really do appreciate it. Okay. So look, I just happened to pull up the chat here because we're about 10 minutes to end time. And I see this one. Eva says, what good will running for office do when the fix is in? So what you're telling me when you say the fix is in is that there is absolutely no such thing as a fair election in Texas. Not a single one. Because I'm not buying it. We've had, and I've talked about this many times before, that we've been told that when you're concerned about this, you have to be sure to win beyond the margin of theft. That's just what you got to do. And you got to be super vigilant. I get the election integrity question almost every time I go now. And let me tell you, we were election integrity before election integrity was cool, because we've always been calling for a referendum. So you can only imagine that we've been digging off into this issue and planning this as part of what we got to do. But look, you're right. I was part of an election in 2012 where in the primaries, the incumbent got, I think, 100% voter turnout in the two precincts, one that he lived in and the one adjacent to his neighborhood. And it was, didn't find that out until a few weeks after. And yeah, it was sketchy as all get out. But that's why we got to go out there and blow this thing out. And the fact of the matter is, I refuse to sit back and check out. I refuse to check out and go, well, I'm just going to throw my hands up. The fix is in. So, you know what? I guess I'm just screwed. I guess I better just go dig a hole in my backyard and crawl in it and cover myself and take a dirt nap. I mean, that's not what you do. We're Texans. We don't surrender. No surrender. No retreat. Victory or death. Right? Come and take it. That's who we are. We're not a bunch of whiny butt thumbsuckers that go hide in the corner, right? We leave that to those whiners in other states. We fight this thing out and we find a way to win. If you want something done, tell a Texan it can't be done, right? That we are those people. We're the people that when push comes to shove, we will charge the gates of hell with a squirt pistol if that's what it takes to win. And we're never going to give up. I'm not. We just go out there and we fight it out. And yes, it's going to be hard. And yes, we're going to get called nasty names. And yes, they're going to say bad things about us. And yes, we're not going to win every time we fight. But we don't quit. We don't give up. We fight it out. I've said this time and time again. Go look at my speeches on YouTube. August 24th, 1996, when I crossed that proverbial line in the sand, it's like what William Barrett Travis signed his famous Alamo letter with, victory or death, right? It was win or die trying to win. And that was the day that I said, I'm going to continue to fight for Texas independence until we win it or until I got a gravedigger pat me in the face with a shovel. That's the deal that I made. So that's the kind of people we are. You want to honor the legacy of those that came before us, and you want these principles to matter, and you want their sacrifices to mean something, and you want your sacrifices to mean something, then you don't ever quit. Never. There's not a thing they can do to make me quit. They can't do it. I'm going to fight this until we win it, or until these lungs no longer draw air. And let me tell you something. If more people in Texas had an attitude like that, we'd have been independent years ago. Right? And all you quitters out there who signed on to the TNM when it was a fancy, oh my God, Daniel Miller's on Fox News. I think I better go sign up because this looks like the popular thing. And then it got tough. And then you bailed out. Oh my God, it's so hard. You're making us do things. It's quitters. You want to know why we're not independent already? All you people that always send me these messages on Facebook, you want to know why we're not independent already? Because of quitters. I told this stat the other day. It might have even been on Coffee Talk. I can't remember. Right? The stat from the Texian army during the Revolution. From the time the Revolution started to the time Houston won at San Jacinto, 60% of the people who joined the Texian army had deserted. had either fled, went back to their farms, buried their heads in the sand. Imagine if Houston had had 100% of that strength. Imagine if he hadn't been subjected to quitters. Now, still won, which proves this. You don't need everyone. You just need the right ones. Right? You don't need everyone. You just need the right ones. It's an interesting statistic, and I was blown away when I learned it. All right, folks, we are rapidly hitting the end. Man, that was like that was like a coach talk. That was like, hey, let's go to the locker room. We need to have a conversation in the locker room, right? My. Hey, and Yona, thank you for your super chat. Okay, a quick reminder in these last few minutes as we're wrapping up, if you're watching this back on the replay, be sure to share. Be sure to do all the liking things and the sharing things. This definitely helps us get the word out. And, I just enjoy this decompress, this weekly decompress. It's good. It's good to be with you guys. And I'm just so happy that so many of you participate and join me week in, week out. We've got one heck of an adventure ahead of us. It's going to be tough, but it's going to be totally worth it. It's going to be totally worth it because we're going to win, and we're going to show the world what Texans are made of. Frankly, everybody needs a dose of that kind of inspiration right now. Everybody does. I have seen recently so many people just defeated and downtrodden and just demoralized, and not just Texans. I mean, people all over. I mean, they are just that. And you know what? We can be that hope that they need, huh? Let's all the eyes of the world are on us. Eyes of the world are on us. So Texians, let's give them a daggum show. All right. Okay. A final reminder here. Be sure to head over to my website. Well, that's not the right one. There we go. Head over to my website, DanielOMiller.com. Sign up today. You'll get the information, the updates about the announcement next week. And, of course, whip out your cell phone, text STAND to 33339. And already giving away one Text It Now mug. Anyone who subscribes to that SMS list, we'll be pulling a random winner from our text message list and sending one of these bad boys directly to you. So be sure to get it in. I didn't even announce that at the beginning. This is not a show, or is it a show? It's starting to feel like one. I guess when you have captions like at the bottom of your screen, it's like a show or an intro, right? There's an intro. What am I going to do? Shows. Okay, folks, that's going to wrap it up. I want to thank you again for joining me tonight and decompressing with me. Let's go out there and win, all right? So I'll leave you with the words that I leave you with every week. The words of Sam Houston when he said that Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations. That time is now, and the question is, will you stand with her? Good night, everyone.
People in power, whether red or blue, they could not care less about Texas, me and you. They created this give me country that don't value hard work. For a Texan to survive, all we need are some seeds and dirt. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country for it's stalled. believe in family and we value our community. Gladly lend a helping hand to a neighbor in need. And we don't believe that government should provide for all of society's needs. No, it's the pride of a Texan to give to others voluntarily. Texan, rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's long gone. Texan, rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's long gone. They like our tax dollars and they love our natural resources. They don't want to see us driving trucks, they'd rather see us riding horses. And now they want to ban our guns, you know, especially the ones that look scary. But may I remind you of the Gonzales Cannon and the Alamo heroes we buried. Texan, rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country, for it's long gone. Texan, rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country, for it's long gone. This last verse is straight from the Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 1 and 2. Look it up. Texas is an independent state, yet presently we suffer. We no longer possess the right to locally self-govern. And now it's time as a people in which all political power is inherent. And in such manner we find expedient, we reform or abolish our government. I said, Texan, rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. Texan, rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country,